I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
I was almost thrown off by StreamYard because it started right away. But anyway, we are the CRM players.
Are we now?
Well, it isn't 3 o'clock on Thursdays, but yeah, I think we are. We're good.
Well, see, I am such a creature of habit that I'm not 100% sure that because we are an hour and a half early is not what we do.
I know, but you know what
All
we do? You know
No,
what we do?
No, what do we do?
We bring the as,
Zzz.
and we've been doing that apparently since 2009. So
Actually, and we're going to prove it by celebrating our 15th anniversary on our 16th anniversary.
Wait a minute. Wow, yeah, go ahead. You can tell folks about it. Before we get rolling, why don't you fill folks in on IRL?
Yeah, so in the spirit of continuing conferences, which this may only be the only one of, Brent and I realized that this year, 2024, was our 15th anniversary of CRM Playaz. And we decided to hold a combination of celebration, thought leadership event, and because we're PPN, our parent company, is a media company, and mix it all together. And we came up with an in-person live event called IRL 2025. I'm sure you all know what IRL means, so I won't tell you.
You had to tell me if the first time I heard it. But.
Well, okay, then I'll tell everybody. In real life, okay? So, I mean, anybody millennial or younger would know that one. But so the reality, so we're going to bring 200 guests. Keynote of Brian Solis, who's going to talk about his new book, Mind Shift. An amazing mix of kind of engagement and media and networking and parties and bourbon and donuts and biscuits.
Bourbon and donuts, you say?
And donuts, but also biscuits.
All right.
We are in Atlanta, and we're going to be doing this on night of January 21st. We're going to have a reception, and January 22nd at the Atlanta Tech Village in Atlanta, which is in Buckhead, lovely neighborhood. We are capping this as invitation only, 200 people. Right now it's we probably, I don't know if we're going to have a full house or not, but if you're interested and you really would like to at least try, we can put you on a wait list. Send me an email at paul-greenberg3@the56group.com, and we'll put you on the wait list. But it is a wait list. So,
but
what?
There is a virtual way. I mean, if we're pushing the envelope here, folks. Do people actually push the envelope anymore? Anyway,
I never knew what pushing an envelope even meant.
I
didn't mean hard.
Didn't really mean a thing.
An envelope weighs like an ounce.
Yeah, I know.
So
but
going like this, I mean, whoa, what pressure.
Yeah, but there will be a virtual way to watch it if you can't make it physically. We're providing a virtual, and there's going to be all sorts of fun things. But stay tuned. We will be bringing out more information as we solidify stuff because things are actually starting to get solid.
Yes, they are. And then we will be announcing soon, not right now, our sponsors. We will be announcing the links to the live event. We will also, if you go to my profile on LinkedIn, you'll see I'm starting to, we are going to have the CRM Watch List GFAs, Grand Finale Awards, where people, products, and companies will be getting basically lifetime awards. Hey, Thomas, he's one of the judges. Hey, Sarita. Hopefully I'll see you on the 18th. Hey, wow. Hi, Christine. So these are 26 analysts came together to pick over their lifetime what they thought were the best of in 21 categories. I'm going to, hey, Jason, see you tomorrow. I'll be releasing every other day or so one of the categories, who the top 3 finalists are, and I'd like you to vote on it in the public. Now, to be perfectly honest, your vote has no impact on it. The judges are the 26 analysts who chose the finalists to begin with. However, we will talk to who the public chose as well, right? So choose now. The first 2 are up. Go to my LinkedIn profile. Use hashtag WatchlistGFA or WatchlistGSAs. With an S, one or the other, I forget. Use them both. One of them's going to go bad, and one of them will be good. Yep. And vote. Okay, the first 2 are up. The third one will be up tomorrow. 21 of them.
And you guys thought you were done voting for the year,
right?
No.
Yeah, well, don't go there.
No, we're not going there. Anyway, know where we're going? We're
Where
going to 2025. You know, this is the third year we've done our what is CRM in, whatever the year ahead is. So 3 years. It first kind of started out as like we just needed an idea to do a show before, like, oh, why don't we do that? And to our surprise and our happiness, people really enjoyed it. I mean, we got 5 executives from, kind of the leading market revenue kind of leading companies to talk about what they saw in the year ahead for CRM. And it worked out so well. And there was so much interest in it. Just the conversation was just good. That we decided we'd do another one. And we did that last year. And in addition to the one panel, we added a second panel. So, we were thinking we'd push the envelope. See what I did there? And it was good. Yeah. It was really good. People got in, not only the first one, we did a little post-game analysis. That went well. We brought in some of our analyst buddies, and then we brought in a second group of executives, and that went well. And so that brings us to this year. And let me just lay out what we're doing.
Miss, what are we doing?
So, funny you should ask. If I can only get this slide up. No, this one. All right, here we go. So this is how we're going to do things, folks. Today, right now, we're doing our first panel of what is CRM in 2025. You see the faces and the names. We're going to have maybe the slightest of intros because we don't have a whole lot of time. Yes. Because we promised these folks we would be done at the bottom of the next hour. So that's 2:30. But show doesn't end there, because right after these folks get done, then we bring in our post-game analysts crew. I like that. We always have to work.
Wow.
Yeah, well,
we're in this
forever. So Cheryl Kingstone, Liz Miller, Rebecca Wedderman. Is Patrick going to be here with her? We don't know. Mike Fawcett. So those 4 are going to join us after the initial conversation to give their thoughts and what they heard, or maybe things that Jason want to add to the conversation. And we are looking forward to that. So that's today. Then tomorrow we are back at 1 p.m. Eastern, and we bring in the second panelist group. And what's really cool about this? 4 of the 5 folks were here last year. So this ought to be interesting to see how things change from last year to this year with this group. In addition, though, we are bringing out the one addition is the 4th gentleman there, or the second one next to VJ, David Singer. He's from Verint. He's I think global VP of go-to-market, but he's also known as Captain America. If you've ever been to a Verint event, he has the shield to prove it. Matter of fact, the one time I saw him without the shield, I was thrown. I didn't know what to say to the guy. But anyway, they will be back 1 p.m. tomorrow. And then we added something new this year because we wanted to we were going to all these conferences, and we got a chance to go to particularly the last 2 conferences we went to of the year, Zoom and user testing. We had never gone to those conferences before. We were really going because we just love the people there, and they were gracious enough to invite us. But what we heard was, even though you don't think of either Zoom or user testing as a CRM or CRX platform, each of them are starting to integrate what they do, or they're not going to go into become a CRM or CRX platform, but what they do are kind of complementary services that will definitely impact CX and CRM to certain levels. So, you want to say something?
Well, pros.
No, I was going to bring them up too.
Okay.
But yeah, and pros, because we've been to pros before, but they are not considered a CRM or CX platform per se, but they are an AI company. And a lot of what they do is definitely driving what people do with CX and CRM. So we are adding this third panel of not CRM, CX platforms, but tangentially related to CRM. And we have John Bruno, who a lot of you probably knew in his previous life as a Forrester analyst, but he's been at pros for 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah. And I think 6
years. He's a VP of strategy and brand new to user testing. Our old buddy, he's not really old, but he's been around for a while. And we've known him, I guess, since his SAP days.
Yes.
Johan Reed, who is just kind of brand spanking new as the user testing CMO. And I would say, if you look at these two right here, I'm going to say they have the best 2 beards in the industry, bar none. I don't think anybody else, even the way that they have those things chiseled,
trimmed.
It's really good.
Trimmed perfectly.
Look perfectly good. All right. But just as of today, we are also adding to that panel Michelle Couture, who is the global product marketing lead for Zoom in it when it comes to CX. So we've got Zoom, user testing, and pros as our kind of final act. So we've added a third panel. Any last words before we get into this first one?
Yeah. Michelle Couture is from Newfoundland. She lives in San Diego, I believe it is, but she's from Newfoundland. That's the important thing.
All right.
I'm married to a Newfie, so it means a lot.
Okay. All right. Let's get into the day. So, do you want to do a very...
I don't know how the hell. How am I going to do a very short intro for 5 people?
Right. Want me to just put that slide back up so we can...
I think it'll be easier. And I'll say one general thing about everybody.
All right. So here you go.
They're all wonderful. They're all experienced. Well, I guess there's more than one, but they're all wonderful. They're all experienced. Each of them has a very specific life history and career history that's led to them being absolute experts on the subject we're going to be talking about today. And every one of them, without fail, has a really good sense of humor. All right.
Wow, that was the fastest intro we've ever had on a show. Let's keep it going. All right. So before we bring our guests up, Paul mentioned this. I actually found a really fitting way to start this panel off.
Yep.
It deals with a question that Paul brought up at the very last part of the last show that we did on what is CRM in 2024. So I thought, what better way to kick things off than to play this?
Actually have a final question, but there's no time to answer it. And this is the most basic of basic questions.
What's the meaning of life?
No, but it's pretty close to that.
Oh.
What is your definition of CRM? Period. I have heard about 700 definitions already, and that's among the 6 of you. And then I've heard about another 700 yesterday. Historically, we know that SFA is what people think CRM is, and it's not. What is your definition of CRM? Not your formal definition of CRM. And I'm going to follow up with each of you, and then we're going to play them.
All right, so you didn't do that.
Neither, I was just about to say that. You can say I didn't follow up with any of them.
But that's why we brought that question forward to this group. So what do you want to do, like an individual? Let them each say it. So we'll bring one on a time, and they will give in to answer that question. Want to do that?
Sure. Look, you're the producer, man. I'll do what you tell me.
You pick a person. Who do you want to start with?
Well, we go alphabetical. Let's go. Adam is first. Adam
right.
Justis.
Adam, first of all, thanks for joining us for year 2 in a row, man.
It's a pleasure and a privilege. Thanks for having me.
All right, so answer away. What's your definition of CRM? My ancillary question, which follows this one, will go to all of you, but you go ahead and start.
I'll answer only if you promise to follow up with me.
Okay, I promise.
All right, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
No, being a New Yorker, promise means nothing.
Fair enough. I'll take that to the bank. What is CRM? At Adobe, with our mission statement of changing the world through personalized digital experiences, we spend a lot of time, change one letter in that acronym, we spend a lot of time thinking about CXM, customer experience management. And I think they are interwoven, two sides of the same coin, definitely related. I think of CRM as the capacity to sort of appreciate the state of being between a customer and your attempt to facilitate that experience management. If you can effectively understand where they are vis-a-vis all of their relevant dimensions to your business, and take that knowledge in order to act on it predictably or reactively. I think in the broadest swath, that's how I think of CRM, absent sort of the speeds and feeds or the technology that enables it.
Okay.
All right. So we're going alphabetical. We're going to Anthony, right?
Right. Anthony
Leeper.
Hi, everybody. I just thought I'd start by pushing the envelope out for you.
See how easy that was, too? I told you, it's like an ounce. So it's not really.
So, guys, look, I want to keep it simple. It is about leveraging every piece of information and knowledge you can capture in a meaningful manner to exceed the expectations of the customer at the point you interact.
Okay.
And that
Well,
is-
then, question 2 will kind of expand all this. So,
Okay. So next up, John Taschek from Salesforce.
Chief.
All right. Well, thank you. I think that, to be a little ingratiating here is to make the LA Rams successful.
All right. The show's over. That's all we need.
Right. It's about as high a note as we're ever going to hit.
Yeah. CRM is the technology and the people to make customers successful, period. But it's going beyond that in the following years to make individuals more successful. And those individuals can be at a company, they can be employees, they could be partners, but it's ultimately to make the customer successful, and before that, to make the individual successful inside the company.
Okay.
All right. Next up. This is really interesting because I think they actually joined us in alphabetical order, because next up is Rob Pinkerton.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Pinkerton.
Thanks for having me here. I cheated, but it's not going to work. I asked ChatGPT what it thought the answer to your question was, and it just shot out 500 words of absolute garbage. It's so many things that I don't know what to say. So I'll make a super simple answer of my own. CRM is 3 things. At least that's what it is for us. It is what it helps our customers win their customers' business, keep those customers happy, and find more happy customers like the ones they already have.
Okay. Okay. I like your version better than the Chat GPT thing.
Well.
I thought you liked John's version best, though.
The Rams thing get me.
We can say the Yankees as well, but they've already been
Okay,
successful.
we can do it without any good wishes.
Nice backpedal there, John.
Dodgers.
All right. But last and certainly not least, Terence Chesire.
Hello, everybody. Can you?
Hey, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us again, man.
Thank you. So I'll go down the ingratiating path, and I'll start off with at least my personal view. Paul, we connected earlier in my career, and you left quite an impression. And I'm partial to the discussion we had, which is it's the systems, processes, and people, so that organization can make offers and support when customers choose to engage. So I've always thought about it that you can only make an offer, but they choose. Now, to go into what my day job says, we think very passionately that it's much more important to deliver on what that customer then requests. So it's not just the offer, it's everything to get it done, because they weren't reaching out just to hang out and chat with you.
Okay. All right. So with that, you guys, by your definition, might have thrown yourself a curveball a little bit, just by the way you defined it, because my definition is a little more operational, I think, than yours is. But because of the next question, and this is something that's needed clarity for years, which is there a difference? And if there is a difference between CRM and CX? Because let's put it this way, the waters are completely muddy and have been forever on that. I have personally very distinct differences, but only because I think CRM failed a little bit in what it should have been. But
Are we answering this in alphabetical order
no,
again?
just any way you want. Now we open it wide. It's all yours. Is there a difference?
I'll just throw it out there. Experiences, when the X part is an amalgamation of what a relationship. Is
I
that
think that's you, Paul.
that is not me?
Not me.
Amber alert.
Yeah, I had one earlier.
Oh yes, I see it. Yeah, I have I'm muted here. So the relationship is the most important thing. Experiences create the relationship ultimately. The X part in that became because CRM had been defined, or maybe the term maligned or associated with SFA. The X was just companies coming in there and saying, well, we're different, but it's still the same thing. You're ultimately about the relationship.
Okay. All right. I mean, that's what do you guys think? Take off on that, because I do agree more or less there.
By the way, there's a tsunami alert. Apparently.
Oh yeah, in San
correct?
Francisco Bay Area.
Be careful out there, folks.
That was me, and I'm trying to make sure. I think we're fine.
Okay.
The other side.
I'm on a hill. Like I live in San Francisco. But I can't imagine it hitting right here, right now. But was there an earthquake or something?
I don't know. Erin Singleton and Sarita Kincaid both mentioned it in the comments. So,
Well, that's what was going off on Terence's.
Yeah, it's at the coastal waters, and we're pretty inland where we are. But I hope everyone's
everybody
safe.
should be safe.
Okay. All right.
John, you're okay?
I'm on the top of a hill, but that doesn't mean that there's not people affected, like on the coastal parts.
Yep.
All right. Well, just be
Anyway,
careful.
so
Take it away, guys.
So, Paul, shall I give you a bit from a hysterical or a historical point of view? You can take
What's
either,
the difference?
exactly. I started even before we thought about SFA as a category, because I was writing on mainframes for customers. But if you move forward from there, and I joined Tom as part of the early days of Siebel, it was SFA and it was call center technology. And we weren't even thinking about, well, those two should come together because it's about the relationship of both. It's around the selling and how that relates to the service and everything else. And of course, Scopus was acquired by Siebel. It became CRM. But then we sort of realized that what we were doing was managing the relationship. I know how to deal with you. I know how to best interact with you. But that doesn't deliver the experience to the customer that you might be aspiring to deliver. So it becomes bigger. And the experience is obviously the emotional end of it. What is the experience you want the customer to walk away with? I may have the way I want to have a relationship with you and how I want to interact with you, but that doesn't necessarily relate to the experience that you then actually have. And there are lots of things that people have done. As you know, Paul, I've been in this industry for too many years, but there's lots of times that I've sold software and people have gone off and used it, and they may have a better relationship management, but that doesn't mean the experience had improved.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? Because it's we talked about, you guys gave your individual definitions of CRM. I'm just curious, have your customers' definitions of CRM changed over the years, particularly over the last couple of years? Has the things that they want from you, have they changed and evolved over the last couple of years?
I think they have. I think that you can, if you just wanted to simplify, divide it into two. There's a history of the CRM, which was on managing the people inside a company who are managing the people outside their company. It was really the M in CRM. And there's still a lot of people who have that more or less legacy view. Now it's more of a much more groundswell or outside in. It's really about the customer and their perceptions of it. And so when I talk to two different kinds of companies, one is really they're trying to manage, and it usually comes from a CIO point of view. They need more efficiency. They need more operations. When you're talking to the CEO, it's growth and how, and personalization, and it's really growth ultimately. So it's both, but it's two different kinds of companies that are looking at that.
I think
If I could add that, I think that's a great point, John. In a way, it ties together these two questions. I feel like the difference between CRM and CX, CRM is evolving, I think, absolutely, as you indicated, but the element of CX, I can't remember if it was Rob or Terence that brought this up. It is the element of the customer's perspective of the customer experience and how they truly are in control, right? They get to determine when and how they want to engage to a great extent. But I think CRM is our opportunity to not only appreciate who the customer was, but who they are becoming in the moment. We can present personalized experiences, but once any experience happens, then it is the responsibility of CRM then to calibrate against that and to contemplate what are the ramifications for the business. What does this mean vis-a-vis our objectives and our goals, and how can CRM sort of account for that and be a system that allows for that constant calibration so that the next attempt at personalization, the next engagement reflects the needs of both entities engaged in that experience.
I totally agree with that, Adam. I think that one side of it is that system of record, which you need. And the other side is the system, hopefully it's an invisible system to the customer and how they experience whatever they're working with, whatever company they're working with, whatever government or whatever entity they're working with, what that experience is. And that's what CRM is becoming. It's got to be both a system of record and that system of innovation and engagement.
Yeah, we've seen within the enterprises that there's a lot more stakeholders that care about the customer experience or the customer relationship, right? I don't think there is a difference to the customer, so I think they're interchangeable. But they're realizing that, in finance, that how you bill is a part of the customer experience, and that it matters to the overall relationship, or that the product teams are feeling like they can get closer to the customer through all these amazing technologies that we've built. And we've seen, just a lot more stakeholders, a lot more engagement across the enterprise, a lot more people feeling empowered. I mean, even, human resources in some cases are trying to get, more CX oriented in how they're engaging. I think that's pretty cool. And it's a big change, though. There's a lot more people.
And I've said for years, guys, that everything a company does is either to serve a customer, an organization to serve a citizen, or a charity to help those in need. And without any of those, you don't need a manufacturing environment, you don't need finance, you don't need HR, and they are all there to serve an end individual, customer or business or whatever it may be. And you're right, Rob, we do see a huge amount of HR wanting to understand how do they shape the employees in the business to better serve the customer. Finance, how do we respond to a financial issue so we don't upset a customer? How so often in the past we've taken a siloed approach, and because one side doesn't understand its impact on those people spending money to create an experience, it can waste it so quickly. And so you're absolutely right. And even things like IT, IT managing the systems behind how a company orchestrates and connects to their customer, it plays a part. It's important. So everybody comes together nowadays to impact and influence that experience.
Yeah, Anthony, to build on that, you're absolutely right about the system needs to be secure and trusted, and it also has to be compliant with any regulations out there. It's a real system, right? There's a real system behind it. The other side of that is that customer, they're fickle. They can move from one place to the other. They have to be engaged with the whatever company or entity they're working with, and they can switch at any time. So keeping them happy is really one of the most important things to do.
So I'll chime in here with a view that leans more toward what Rob and Anthony is, and I skew on the larger side. So I think the evolution has been that there isn't the system, there isn't a system. It's quite a lot of things, and orgs have gotten complex. What they want to do have gotten complex. Customers have gotten fickle. And so that's why I started off saying systems and processes, because I'm fully on board. Like, a lot of other teams are realizing they need to be part of that process. And they're also realizing the complexity of what it is and all the newfangled tech that also just keeps showing up. And so it's a much more broader set of things than the thing which we started off a couple of decades ago going, okay, this is the database that tells me something. Turns out there's quite a few different things that tell you, from the employee to the IT to the interaction.
I just want to jump in and just say there are some great comments going on right now. So many you can't even get to them. And they're not just like one word. They're like full sentences and paragraphs. Sam and Thomas, you guys are having a really great exchange. I wish I could have incorporated all that, but we kind of can't. But we love the comments. We love what you're saying. And we're going to try to work some of that in. But Bob Finkel did have an interesting question. I thought I'd pop this one up and see what you guys think. Even though he is a Boston sports fan, I did take his question. All right, just had to put that out there. All right, so how will the companies leverage interconnected, insightful, and AI adaptive technology solutions to put the customer front and center to improve loyalty and profitability? That's a pretty long question, but I think it's a really relevant one because isn't that kind of the point of all this stuff?
Absolutely. Fundamentally, it is all about, that whole end to end. I think it was you, Adam, and John was saying that, it's no longer CRM in isolation, but even when we're trying to use AI and intelligence, it is data from so many different data points. Back to what you said, Terence, we have to look across the enterprise to entirely understand, is this the right decision for the business whilst it's the right decision for the customer? And we've spent years talking about 360 degree. I mean, Paul, you and I have been around this, the sort of 360, the view of information. We've got so clever at pulling thousands of bits of data together, we've forgotten the fact that the person reading it can't read it quick enough and can't analyze it well enough to actually make an insightful decision. And this is where I think, for example, AI starts to give us an opportunity. How do we take now this mass amount of data and the measures that are right for the experience we need to deliver, the business we need to run, and then optimize it at that point of interaction to generate better loyalty, to generate better wallet share? I've always said there are certain brands that they could do the worst thing to me and I would still love them. How do you create that totally gluey and sticky loyalty?
I'd love to see an example of what that kind of company is that would abuse you and you'd still love it.
I always used to say, John,
there is counseling available.
Yeah, Paul may remember this. I always used to say, if Virgin Atlantic threw me out of the airplane at 30,000 feet, I'd still get on another plane tomorrow that was Virgin. So the bottom line is I might be in a bit of a mess. I might be in a box, but I'd still get on a Virgin Atlantic plane. They couldn't do anything wrong, and they were never perfect.
Can I give you the flip side of that, Anthony? I stick to Delta, but it's not because they're so great. It's because I want to gain points. I want to get to a certain status. And if I spread it out across a bunch of them, I won't ever be able to get like a free drink or something. So it's not necessarily that I love them. They're just the main reason or the main way for me to get to a certain level of comfort, I guess.
They're also your main hub. You're at the Delta hub. So of course you want to stick with it.
My loyalty with Virgin does mean I'm a gold card holder for life. I got that level, Brent.
And Alan is absolutely right. Like we haven't won a Super Bowl in 3 or 4 years, and I'm still like, look at me. I mean, all the stuff I'm wearing right now is brand new.
About the Jets, though, you don't even have that excuse.
Well, at least I'm not. Yeah,
literally probably the world's the second worst team after the Giants.
It's a total other story.
But
the question is a great kind of entree for us to kind of talk about eventually where the conversation was inevitably headed, which is AI and what is it doing. I can remember our last conversation and we were poking at how Gen AI is going to be a thing, and who could have predicted like how dominant it would be in our narrative and our conversations over the course of the last year. But I like the framing. I like reminding ourselves at the end of the day, it's about what does AI in any shape or form do for the customer at the end of the day? How does it actually prevent those fickle customers from having to kind of know our org chart in order to do what they want to do with our business? How can we leverage those tools? And I say, how can we? Really, it's about all of the people that exist either in the tech stack or in the front lines of interacting with customers. How do we effectively elevate that lead to loyalty sort of continuum so we keep Brent on a Delta flight and we keep Anthony with his gold card. Hopefully that can transform into a parachute when he gets the boot out of the plane, one way or another. But I like the framing of the question. I think it's a really interesting way for us to kind of contemplate, because we could go all day talking about agents and elements and co-pilots and what they mean. But in absence of the impact to the actual customer experience, why talk?
I'm optimistic to kind of along those same lines. I think AI has the potential actually to bring more personal, person-to-person type relationships into the customer relationship. And just keep riffing on the airline example. I mean, a lot of people here travel, right? You have your 1K number if you're with United or, whatever it is. I mean, that's the service that we enjoy, right? Like or maybe we don't enjoy, but we appreciate, right? You get to someone who can solve your problem. They take care of you. I mean, AI should be able to bring that to more and more people, right? I mean, no one grew up wanting to be a tier 1 or tier 2 customer service rep, right? Like that's not, like we talk a lot about moving that out of the ecosystem, but you get to a tier 3 or your 1K level person, and if AI can help integrate that to more and more customers in your portfolio, that's a great thing for customer relationships. And I think it'll do exactly what the question asks: is it'll bring more loyalty and it'll bring more, a better relationship. And that's very possible.
And I'll jump in, and I loved that question, and I'll add on to what Adam, Rob, and Anthony said. That, the words interconnected, end to end, and I will be a little contrarian here. I'll indict all of us. Technology has made a lot of promises and also had a lot of drawbacks. So, to your point, Rob, like technology introduced email, and we all remember, at least this group remembers, paper memos and those manila that we interoffice, right?
Hey, Terence, we remember pushing the envelope too. So
exactly, right? And so email came along, and it was magical. And then you fast forward a couple of decades, and to go in, and I remember giving this example last time, that someone's whole job is to read an email and put it in a folder, just the virtual one, and that was not fulfilling work. And so my contrarian view is AI is finally starting to do some of those things we've promised people for a while. It's a little embarrassing for me to say, but the computers start to do smart things. We promised this a couple of decades ago. We just didn't tell them it would be sort your emails for a while, but now it starts to do really interesting things that you thought computers could do. And we can go down the deep end of that, but that's, you have to be an optimist in this industry, and we've caused some problems, but we've caused more benefits, I think, than we've introduced. And AI is the next incarnation of some great stuff we will do.
Hey, Paul, did you want to do something with Sven's comment? Start a little conversation around this?
Well, in a way, yeah. So look, notice the trailing sentence there at the end. It feels like CRM and CX was just a test for ... And we are looking at 2025 and ahead. So is it a test for something, or do you see these things just continuing on their own separate path, or even more fully integrating than they actually seem to be now? Or where do you see that going? There, look, it's going to...
Paul froze for me.
Oh, he did? Well, I can hear him. Everybody else?
Yeah, I got him.
Okay.
Yeah, I got him.
Okay, now?
I think John might have froze.
Oh, yeah, John.
Did I freeze? Because I saw people moving except for you, Paul. So
No. I was actually holding a statuesque pose.
Okay.
John, did you hear that? Did you hear any of it? Basically, the idea is take the trailing sentence of Sven's comment here, and do you think that's a trailing sentence for something that is innovative and new, or this is just going to continue on as the integration of based on all your descriptions?
I don't think so. A test. What does a test mean? Like, using Terence's example of email, was that a test for collaboration and personalization? No, it's an evolution. And with the way I view the world, with evolution in technology, there's also kind of a revolution. There's a transformation, and that's what we're at now. It's still going to be CRM. It's going to just transform into something that's highly personalized, highly focused on engagement, but also still do the things that CRM does: efficiency, management, connections. I don't see it as a test for anything. So maybe I'm not understanding that word test for. Yeah. Like, is the world going to change, in 2025? Yeah, but it's going to be very predictable because we're anticipating it happening, and the foundation's already there.
Yeah, treat the word test as more like predecessor for, something like that. Okay. Anyone else have a comment on it?
Yeah, I do think Thanks, Sean. I think it's a great point. I mean, to imagine it's a test, it sort of feels like we turn the page and then all of a sudden we're in a new place. I like the notion of it being a springboard. Like, where is it headed to us? Whether or not we kind of keep the labels or we shed the labels. I think that you nailed it when you said, yeah, we're headed to a place where things will be dramatically more personalized, right? Things will be much more fluid in the organization, where we can treat a customer as a customer. We're not just kind of looking at our siloed our role responsibility to increase social engagement, or our role responsibility to increase kind of this metric or that metric. I think CRM in 2025, like, one of the main things we're going to be focused on is how do we escape this notion of incrementalism? Like, what more can we do with CRM versus, and we've been doing some great research with some thoughtful partners at Adobe about how does Gen AI get us to compounding advantage? In 2025, can we do things in our organizations where we take leaps and we get a little bit more bold than getting slightly more incremental, where we think about taking real steps towards that much, I don't like the term hyper, because what's hyper personalized? Much more personalized, much more unified in the way that we treat an account.
Can we pick up on that a little bit? Because when you look at all, the decades and how all these really exciting technologies, important technologies have come around and it have improved our lives from a personal perspective. And then when they start to be translated or integrated into our professional lives, they don't seem to have that same level of impact. And I think I would say a lot of ways that these technologies are first introduced are from a efficiency and a cost reduction perspective. People are only really focused on how does it make me do what I already do cheaper and faster, and I don't have to put as much effort in. And I think, there's that's an important part. You always need to be more efficient and more productive. But what will it take for the actual creativity and the new innovation to point that lens at, the Gen AI lens, not just at that efficiency and cost effectiveness, but to actually see what we can actually do that we've never done before that could be a game changer from a customer interaction or experience? It feels like we're always looking at these technologies and saying, oh, they're great, but they only get kind of used for certain instances and not really to fulfill the greatness. How do we get to that?
Yeah,
Brent, I think
and I partially answer the last question too, with maybe somewhat contrarian point of view, because I don't think CRM is a test. I think right now it's a test for CRM, right? I think the change. We're in a major, technology paradox shift, is what it seems like right now with AI, and I think that's a big test on the technologies that are out there. And I think to get to something big, like you asked, Brent, also means we're going to have to, really the customers are going to take a hard look at what, the current technologies are doing. I love the golden age of digital prospecting over the last 10 years, but, I'm at a point where I think we can all acknowledge that like a 2%, success rate on conversion is also a 98% failure rate, right? And there's a lot that is going into the customer experience that isn't particularly useful to doing big things. It isn't particularly useful to, doing, what customers may ultimately want. And I think that's what the test is right now. And I think it gets to the point you're bringing up, Brent, which is, these AI use cases that are, being knocked around, right? And we're still not at a point where we know what the use cases are, right? We're still developing the infrastructure and the platforms. But we're talking about whole screen displacement and, self-driving cars and health diagnostics without doctors. And these are the sorts of things that are going to completely transform the customer relationship and the models that people use to go direct to their customers. And I think that's the test, is can we figure those out before customers figure it out for us?
Wouldn't that be cool if the customers did help figure that out?
Well, I think they are.
They are doing that. Yeah.
Brent, what I would say though is, we've gone through so many technology changes in CRM, and so many times the businesses have not had the confidence to change. They've not had the appetite to change, and therefore they haven't changed. And that's why so many CRM implementations fail. And what we're now asking them to do is, with some incredible technology, really think differently. But now we're not just asking the people who own CRM to think differently, we're asking the business to think differently. When you get your modern gadget, whatever it is, it's only you that has to consume that gadget and change what you do with it for it to impact your life. But we are asking big institutional companies who still implement old paper processes in the most modern of CRM. We have to help them have the confidence, the appetite, and the commitment to want to make that change. And that, I think, is the big challenge. We can talk about technology all day. But Paul, you and I spoke many years ago in New York, and I said to you, biggest problem is having the ability to help companies have the confidence to change and embrace what this technology delivers.
Yeah. And Brent, you talked about the, efficiency in CRM. There's two sides of that. The CIO, it's always on the top of the agenda: efficiency, maintenance, uptime, things like that, right? The CEO is always about growth, and probably growth along with that, retention and things like that. And there's two sides. They don't always agree. The priorities aren't always set. But when I'm looking at the future in 2025, and what Anthony had just said, the way I used to explain that, there's a lot of inertia out there. There's a whole systems and policies in these companies. They don't change overnight, and they're not going to change overnight. They're not going to change in 2025. In addition, they have to deal with new regulations and compliance. There has to be a full set. What I'm concerned about with many technologies that are out there is that throwing something like Copilot or Agent or AI on something is just going to expand what is now the paradox of choice. It's being there's so many choices. Like, you go to a drugstore and there's 40 versions of Tylenol. You don't know which one to get, into something way more expansive. And what AI has to do is simplify that and give some action in order to maintain that compliance and also the growth. Growth is the experience, the relationship that a customer has. That's it, period. That's kind of what I started with them. I haven't changed my mind yet.
And I'll build on that. And like the others, it's the two questions, right? The test part really got to all of us. And I'll start off with, I've heard this expression and I really am partial to it, that people overestimate the short term and underestimate the long term. I wouldn't doubt that in 10 years, CRM may be completely disrupted, but it's not happening in 25. And to John's point, the regulations and the need to stay in business means you have to run controlled experiments. We still have this problem of hallucinations, right? We can't quite tell you, and these things will very confidently drive you off a cliff. So it is good that you are cautious, but those experiments build boldness. And I agree, it's not just efficiency. It is driving to new offers, but we've called this the Eiffel moment, some of us. And first was, you just did phone calls, and then you had net new concepts, like everyone talks about Uber at the moment, at that moment. But then all of a sudden, everyone expected their logistic delivery company to offer that experience. But it was about a decade. But now everyone just expects that you know exactly how many stops away your parcel is, or your food is, or whatever it is. So this agentic has legs. Next year will be the first of those experiences, but it's not going to be, any org at scale is not responsible if they flip the switch immediately.
And Terence, just to build on what you just said, CRM won't be completely transformed until it's invisible to the customer using it. They don't need to use a form. They don't need to interact in a way that's not natural to them, not in a vocabulary that they don't understand, not in a window that pops up. It's got to be working where they are. It has to be invisible to them in order for it to be really successful. Once that happens, and there'll be experiments and there'll be some pioneering companies out there that do that, that's when CRM will change. And the companies that are best set up for that, which connect the data sources from their outside, their inside, when they're able to do that, they'll be able to offer that seamless experience to the customer.
Wow.
Agreed.
All right, we're cutting close to the end, so just keep mindful of the time there.
So here's the deal. I mean, I have to say my definition of CRM is totally different, not totally different, similar, but somewhat different than all of you, because when I looked at CRM back in the original many years ago, I really had super high hopes for CRM per se. I don't know how many people remember my original definition. I don't, but I do remember one.
It's at the speed of light, though.
Yeah, that's all I remember. It's really fast, right?
You were pushing the envelope back
really fast, right? I pushed the envelope. But I do remember one thing. I called it a strategy. I even got to the point where I said it was a philosophy, or could be a philosophy, and a system and a technology. But the market didn't see it that way. And when somebody says CRM now, they say a CRM. They don't say CRM. They say my CRM, our CRM, a CRM. And what they mean, regardless of what we mean, what they mean is a system. And there's a big discussion going on that on the comment section.
We're gonna have to do a show with Sam and Thomas
and Tony.
Yeah, and Tony.
Actually, there's a bunch of people there. So anyway, the thing is, it became operational. I still am a firm believer it's customer-facing technologies that define that system, that enable that system. That the system is used primarily to manage and operate. Even I know we all had that dopey comment we all made about it's the relationship, not the management. Well, unfortunately, it ended up being the management, not the relationship. And CX and customer engagement kind of took the ball and started running with what we wanted CRM to be, right? And that's the way I look at it. And from that standpoint, where I look at it going forward and where I look at the success rate, what CRM is necessary, okay? There's no business in the world that should run without CRM systems and technologies in place, managing the customer-facing operations of that business. And in the meantime, because it can capture the data and it can do things with that data, is incredibly valuable to customer experience and customer engagement. They're not unrelated. But where I'm going here is 2025, where I see AI having value. And Rob Pinkerton made this comment, not here, but earlier, how on something we talked about when we were at Cloud World.
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah,
it's brilliant.
He could literally argue with and yell at ChatGPT or Copilot, right? You could have a fight with it. And it's true. I fight with it all the time. I said, "You're an idiot." That's what I've literally written to Copilot.
Does it actually return your one?
No, it just apologizes all the time. I mean, the good thing is you always win the argument. You never lose. But that aspect, and one of the reasons that OpenAI and ChatGPT and all that took off was the conversational side of it, not the AI side of it per se. The AI side provides an incredibly rapid response. It's highly conversational. You feel a little more personal with it, even though you're not really. But all of those things are where CX and CE goes, right? And to John, your earlier point about the future being personalization, and also to your point, Adam, about hyper is not a word in this ever, right? That's where I do see it in 2025 as being whatever evolution and breakthrough happen is not really in the CRM side, except in management and again, to the point of multiple people here, around the efficiencies and effectiveness of improvement of processes and also interactions, but more on the human side of it, really, where AI can help improve the actual experience of getting what you need. And Thomas is in discussing jobs to be done in the comment section. And there too, look, ultimately, my interaction as a customer and every one of us is we need this company to do something we need it to do, whatever it is, right? And ultimately, it needs to do it. Otherwise, we're not going to continue with it. And the rest of it, gravy. Get it done, and we'll be happy. Happy enough, let's just say that. Go to the airline. Look, minimally get me to where I'm going on time, and I'll be okay with it. I won't love it, but I'll be okay with it. So how does that that's a big, long answer because I needed to tell you what I'm thinking here. But
And we only got 4 minutes left, by
that's
the way.
all right. In the next 4 minutes, that's where I see 2025 goes to the point of personalization and goes to the more humanization of that using AI for that. How do you see that even being possible, much less done?
Yeah, and not just personalization as far as marketing goes, which is kind of where the term was really. It's everywhere. It's personalized everything. Personalized IT, personalized customer service, personalized sales. Every aspect of all technology will be more personalized.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. I mean, what do other people think there?
I think you'll know it's arrived at that point when certain roles reverse, right? Like right now, salespeople call their customer and sell them something. Customers call their service people to get help. You want to see it go the other way, right? Like when the AI is good enough, service will call you before something breaks. Say, hey, we're going to take care of service, right? And you salesperson won't call you. You'll call salesperson because you're ready and you know what you need and you sort of figured it out and now you need guidance.
Or it's mutual, right? I agree with you, and that's where agents will make the most impact in 2025. It's more proactive for sure.
I do think
I'll make sure that every interaction centers around me and enables me to get what I need faster, quicker, more accurately, and better. At the same time, making sure that the company interest is still maintained in the background. They have to be profitable. It has to work. All right. But that for me is it. It'll turn exactly as you said, Rob, it'll turn the conversation around. And that's the biggest value we will end up delivering.
I hope the irony isn't lost on us, Paul, that I think you just said, will AI allow us to will artificial intelligence allow us to present a more human, empathetic, and relevant experience to our customers? And maybe, I think that we're certainly working towards that. I mean, we might label it personalization, but I think that's what we mean. And I think the onus is on us to sort of help shine a light into how that's going to happen, while hopefully, to Anthony's earlier point, I don't know how many years ago you said that you had that conversation with Paul where you said the real impediment, the real blockage is the organization momentum, which is linked directly to the humanity of an organization that prevents us from fully leveraging the value of CRM and the other integrated systems that exist around it to deliver meaningful CX. So I wonder if this year we can also push or see AI help innovate through some of that blockade, right? To kind of help light up the appetite and the interest to make real organizational change to get to this kind of promised land of personalization.
Hey, Adam, last year, I don't know if you remember, but Rob Tarkoff mentioned some study that showed that when it came to something in the health field, I don't know if there were nurses or just generally, that the AI and the humans were kind of on the same level when it came to proficiency.
Mm-hmm.
But when it came to empathy, the AI actually scored higher than the humans. I don't know if you remember that or not, but that stuck with me. But let's flip that around. I think part of the reason why that might have been the case is because humans are overworked in a lot of instances in these fields. They're frustrated, they're tired, they're exhausted, they're completely at their wits' end. Maybe if we're able to let this AI take some of that load off, maybe they can remember to be human again. And that would be actually a pretty good thing for 25, more humanity from humans. That would be good. If AI allows us to do that, that is a good thing.
Yeah, that's what I want, more humanity. And it's maybe not just the frustration, it's doing mundane things that are boring for overstimulated minds.
I'm fully on board with that, which is I know I was pretty negative on tech earlier. I am very optimistic that it'll deliver, that these agents will free up the humans inside the org to do the complex high empathy tasks and deliver that tailored experience. I'm with you, Paul. You just want something done as a customer. And sometimes it may be an AI agent that just gets it done super efficiently, knowing who you are, your exact situation, and accomplishing it.
All right. What a way to end it. We all want more humanity in 2025 from CRM.
Exactly, Brent.
And AI will help us.
Yay, people. Yay, people. And I was thinking, Rob, one last thing. When you mentioned turning it around, I was thinking, does that mean Copilot's going to start yelling at us?
Did you see?
No, it already is.
Did you see Rebecca? Well, Rebecca said she already had a fight with Agent Force, and she thought she lost. I don't know.
I have to take that up with Rebecca later.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you guys so much once again for
awesome.
doing this. It never fails. Paul and I get a lot of the credit for this, but it's like, no, we just get the right people together and get out of their way. And then we'll still take the credit, but we just appreciate you guys for doing
You guys get all the credit for bringing everyone together for 15 years. And, come on, you guys deserve a lot.
No,
Wow.
really, but
Well,
thank you.
we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thanks again. And
Think
we'll
so.
do this next year if you guys are up for it. I mean,
Are you up for it?
Always.
Everybody, welcome back. Come back next year.
Let's do it.
Awesome.
Okay, everyone. 2020, end of 2025. Here's our guests.
All right. Thanks again, folks. Now we're getting ready to segue over to, I think we got all our analysts lined up. So let's say thank you to Rob. See you, Rob, later. Bye, Adam. Thanks for joining us again, man. Anthony, like I said, you're only half the man you used to be, and we're really glad that's the case. So thank you for
We're
joining
so
us.
happy to have you. See you soon.
Absolutely. John, when you say the Rams thing, you will always be welcome, whatever we do.
You're always welcome, period, for anything ever.
Yeah, Rams or not. Yeah, but thank you.
Take care, man.
Exactly.
And Terence, as I like to say, the smoothest man in the industry.
I'm right there.
Thanks
Oh,
again,
wow.
man. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great holiday season, too.
You too.
All right. So, man, that was awesome.
That was spectacular.
But you know what? We ain't done.
What? I was
Yeah.
planning on going.
We're not done. No, because I think everybody is lined up. So,
Oh.
do you want to do a brief intro?
No,
Just wanna bring
everyone
them
knows
on?
these guys. They've been on the show how many times? These people, like
I can't count it. At this
and
point.
it's like let's just turn it over to these amazing analysts.
All right, so we'll bring them out. Let's see. Can I get alphabetical order here?
I have no idea.
Well, I can't because the very first name. I'm not. There she is. Okay. First up, Liz Miller,
There she is.
all the way from Vegas.
All the poolside cabana in Vegas, gentlemen. What's
You're in a
happening?
cabana?
I'm literally in a pool cabana.
Oh my!
That's how we roll.
Well, I'll
Didn't
tell
we
you
set
what,
that up
man.
for you? I don't know.
Call in someone, get a drink, and settle in.
All right. While she's doing that, let's say hello to Mike Fawcett.
Mr. Fawcett.
Hello.
Look at that.
Hey,
Look
Liz.
at that. Image quality is just
Well, the pro cameraman.
absolutely. All right. Next up, let's see. I make sure my alphabet is
Keep it
Oh,
up.
Rebecca. And not only is it Rebecca, it's Rebecca
Oh, boy.
Patrick.
There he is, the
Awesome.
fifth analyst. He's anxious to talk. Hey,
All right.
Patrick.
Hi, Patrick. It's Auntie Liz. We're
I'll go
And-
get our
it's
kitten.
Auntie
I'm
Liz.
gonna go get our kitten.
All right. And last but certainly not least, all the way from up yonder, which is Canada. For those who don't know what up yonder is, Cheryl Kingstone.
All right.
You're on mute, by the way.
I realized that. And I was going to say, I don't have my dogs because we're taking off to
Well,
Florida.
you had him on last
recording.
year, I think, didn't you? Didn't you show us one of your dogs last year?
Maybe.
But can we see the kitchen? That's all I want to know. Can we see
We
Cheryl's
could. The kitchen's almost done, but that's not in this area. But I can definitely next time show you.
All right. That works. With green screen your kitchen in.
Yeah.
Right. So,
All right. So let's
okay,
get
one last thing before we
Oh,
start. All
okay.
four of these folks, just so those out there who are coming to IRL 2025, these are 4 of the 26 judges. Actually, all 6 of us are 6 of the 26 judges on IRL 2025. Just want you to know. So these are the people.
Wait a minute. I thought it was GFA.
And for those of you who haven't sent your scores,
No, I was just mentioning the
how to do
comment.
it.
Oh, okay.
I did it right away.
Oh, I know.
tomorrow at 6. Oh, I know.
3 of you owe me. Right. 3 of you owe me.
No,
Okay,
I sent
so-
yours. I sent it back.
Patrick
No, I
counted
know.
four.
I know. I'm not saying which three. I'm just saying three. Could be me as one of them.
I'm poolside
could-
I'm in a cabana, Paul. What am I supposed
So
to
you
do?
know what? As I said,
Say
pull
hello
out
to
your
Barry
score
Manilow
sheet,
for me.
get a drink, right? Have a cabana boy help you fill it out. Right, then we're good.
Man, oh boy. Okay. All right. So while that's all
The
going on,
1950s concept.
Don't go there, Brent.
Oh, you don't want to go there.
so you guys did. I don't know how much you caught of the discussion with the 5 folks from the vendors, but any impressions before we get going and getting your impressions on,
On
what happened?
any of the questions at any point.
Yeah.
No.
I just like the fact that we ended with the human. I missed the beginning. I will admit I was in client meetings, but I had to deal with it.
New kitchen.
And the new kitchen, yes. I loved the humanization aspect, and maybe we can all stop being so cranking with one of each other if we can take off the shit that we have to do and then do the more interesting stuff. Maybe that will make everyone humanized, and maybe Rebecca won't argue with the agentic AI. Apparently she did. Doesn't take much to get me to argue with anyone either. So I'm sure I have told a very stupid bot that they're useless, right? So we have to go beyond that. But it's also about the data. It's not about the bot. It's not about it's how are we training and how are we using and how are we gathering our most important asset in our organization, which is about the data and the governance on how we're going to use that appropriately, right? And that's what 2025 is going to be all about. It's not about CRM. We've had CRM for 2 decades and still haven't solved the problem. 3 decades now. Sorry, I'm getting old. And it's always been about the data from the start. So I don't know.
You know, I think it's interesting, Cheryl, that you say that. And the other interesting point I think that came up in the first part of the program today was about incrementalism, right? How do we really take advantage of AI? And Dave and I talked about this at Terence conference earlier this year. How do I get from sort of incremental to the exponential promise of what AI can do? And I think we can all agree it is not about the AI at this point. It's, to Cheryl's point, it's about the data. It's about how do I bring that data in a meaningful way and make sure that I'm not just sort of pushing the envelope, the manila envelope with the red string a little faster than before, but actually doing things differently.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't fix the data, you can't do any of these other things anyway, right? I mean, you think you're arguing with agentic AI bots right now, but if you don't have the data there, you're going to really be arguing with them because they're going to be completely lost. So I thought that was good, and you know, when you went through the definitions, I thought that was an interesting sort of view to see how we've evolved around definitions, Paul. Because you know, if you had asked me CRM in 2000, that'd be a whole lot different than it was in 2005 or 15 or today, right? And I love the fact that we started to talk about it as strategy, people, systems, and tie all those together. And then the other end of it is, and then look outside the in and say the experience is what that customer prospect experience is.
And
right?
ideally, when CRM began, that's what we wanted.
Yeah,
But
it was.
It's just not the way people define it.
No, we got lost in sales.
Yeah, well, that was the other side. CRM became SFA and CRM became absolutely synonymous.
Yeah. Let me ask you guys though. Let me throw this out there. How much of it is a fix the data issue, or how much of it is a fix the human issue?
I think you have to fix the human issue. Almost, you have to acknowledge the human before you can fix the data. And I think where we've gotten lost since the very beginning of CRM, and quite frankly, we got lost at the very beginning of SFA, was that we forgot that the data is really just a manifestation of the customer that has been able to fit into our systems. We've been able to fit that customer into our systems very differently thanks to a lot of these innovations. And now, thanks to AI, we can correlate different things together that we have collected across the enterprise to have a far more robust picture of our customer. But we somehow, along the way of this conversation, really love to forget that the C in CRM isn't data, right? It's not data relationship management. It is literally intended to be customer relationship management. And thankfully, because of these systems and because of the strategies, we can acknowledge that the data that exists across our enterprise should be treated as that digital manifestation of our customer that lives within our systems.
Well, and we did nothing but fragment data for years, right? The more cloud systems we made, the more people use their credit cards, and the more, we had 47 marketing systems and 27 sales systems. And so at some point we had to go, okay, this is ridiculous, right? You've got to put the data together. I love the idea of being able to create, models, synthetic customer trial, these things, do all these all these things are great. I love them. I get all excited about tech, but in the end, if I can't actually tie all that in the back end together, it just doesn't matter.
So let me ask you guys this then. So look, here's this sort of an optimal minimal, if there's such a thing. So optimal minimal would be that any advances in CRM, AI, CX systems or CX strategies, engagement strategies should be designed, going to the point of that C in CRM, so to speak, to help me get the job done I want to do with that company done. And that would meaning help me as a customer get it done and get it done in a way that I like. Now that would be optimal minimal, meaning it would be great to love it, but I can live with that as a customer. I can live with it as long as you get it done for me, then which is why I'm engaging you, that company. Now, do you see any of that actually? That sounds, simple and at a lower level, but it's not, obviously, because most things don't do that. That's why we get mad at AI, right? So, but do you actually see that happening in 2025 at any level at all, or is that something that we should dream about in 2050, or really it's just me trying to cause?
Are you saying improving the overall
by a pool? Damn.
Wait, so Paul, clarify your question. What do you see not happening?
No, I'm saying, can you there's no way in hell that CRM, AI, CX, and CE are at that level now, meaning can get my job done effectively in a way that makes me want to just continue doing with whatever company that is, which is the ideal state of everything related to it, right? Well, and again, I don't have to be delighted. I don't have to be thinking it's extraordinary. I just need for these things to work so I can get the reason I came to you, company, I came to you to get something I needed done. But
isn't it ironic, Paul, that you've attributed that statement and that mindset to the customer? But that mindset is also very true for all of our employees, right? It is going back to Cheryl, the point that Cheryl elevated from the conversation is that is a very human desire, right? A very human desire is, I don't like wasting my time. I like being successful. Every once in a while, I'd like to be thrilled with something cool, and that would be awesome. But you know what? I really just want to get blank job done, whether it's my job, whether it's your job, whoever's job done. I think when it comes to experience delivery as a whole, regardless of who that experience is pointing to, I do think it's happening in fits and starts. I do think we're starting to see being able to pull it together. But I'm going to go back to Cheryl's excellent point to begin with, right? Is that if you don't get the human side of this right, and you don't get the data side of this right, you don't get to connect where those experiences need to intersect and what value it's driving for both parties involved.
I think we've kind of at the foundational level, though, right? I mean, I agree with you, Liz. I think all these things are great, and we finally started to see it. We started to open the lens up when we think of the data. That was really important because we used to think of it as one really small thing, and now we realized it's actually everything in the business that has to be focused around it. And we've started to create tools and ways to get this done, and strategies to support those tools and ways to get it done. But now we've got to do that. I mean, next year is the action year. You had to start.
Yeah,
cloud sounds great unless you don't use it, and then it's not great. Or whatever.
So Mike, I actually said next year is the action in 2022 when I said 2022 was the year that
I probably said that.
I went back to my own report. But to answer Paul's question, right? To answer Paul's question, right? So let's take a look at the journey and look at it and put what Liz said by putting the customer back into it, right? And now also let's take a look at it. It isn't just the customer trying to get something done. It's about the company trying to do what's right for the customer, right? No one sets out by saying, I'm sorry, but I want to piss off this customer, right? They don't go and say, I'm sorry, but if I look at some of my friction.
I'm getting on a plane later, Cheryl.
Okay. But let's look, right?
Some industries accepted, Liz.
So revenue loss. right? Revenue loss. This is
Right.
where agent assist comes into play, but also the customer experience, right?
Amen.
Advertising discrepancies. Last year, we formulated that as $32 billion. Nobody wants to go out and have bad advertising. We're spending too much money there, right? Too many steps between discovery and purchase. Again, $31 billion. Abandoning at checkout, lack of preferred channel.
Damn.
I can go on and on and on. However, right? We've been talking about personalizing that experience, creating that experience better so that why, right? Revenue gained. But we have been tracking the balancing of privacy and trust and personalization, right? So we've seen $13 billion improvement on cross-sell and personalization dollars by incremental revenue. So this isn't something that is just starting because agentic AI is there. This is hopefully going to continue to move the needle forward. So I have less revenue lost and more revenue gained, because believe me, I don't have enough points on my chart here to make the green bigger. I have tons of points on my chart to make the red bigger, if you see what I mean. We need to balance this out more. Maybe that's what 2025 is going to be all about. Sorry.
Anyone else?
I think there's an interesting point here that we talked a little bit about sort of humans and change, but there's another word that I think is worth talking about, which is management and what happens to management in 2025. Because if you look at all of the people
Super interesting.
find to make sure people were doing what they were supposed to be doing, a lot of that's going away. So what happens to those folks, and what does that mean both in the sales and service context when I can have AI at scale managing and coaching and lifting up my junior salespeople, and I don't need that level of middle management, which, let's face it, was not necessarily always that effective.
But can we just say just like it's okay that for a business that we are sitting here wanting to make money. Like even a nonprofit wants to raise money, right? Like there's nothing wrong with that. And I think a lot of times when we start to think about customer experience, employee experience, we start to think about these terms. It's almost like, like Cheryl, when we were talking about like, okay, we want the customer to get done what the customer wants to get done. But let's also be very realistic and be honest about the fact that, let's get done what the company wants to get done, which is increase margins, grow profit. We want all of those things. Those two things, to Cheryl's point, absolutely can coexist together, but we have spent so much time to Michael's point, we've put so much effort into segmenting our data, segmenting our strategies, playing don't touch my button. I want to own the hot potato known as X, right? We put so much time in arranging our technology into really neat org charts that we have completely lost sight of what we want to do as a business, which is, hey, let's make money and not be jerks about it, hopefully. And let's get our customer to where they want to be so they get their stuff done. You hit that nexus point. I'm literally at AWS reInvent. And I got to tell you, all these devs, all these folks who are putting all these building blocks together, not one of them is sitting here like, I'd like to put building blocks together just for the fun of it. They want to do it because they have two goals in mind, what their business needs and what their customer needs. And that's pretty awesome. Like there's a lot of energy around it right now. And I hope that 2025 is the year that keeps moving forward.
I was just going to say, I remember that that term we used to throw around, like mutually appreciated value. Like, I don't mind paying for stuff if they're giving me, something that I really find valuable. And if they can provide it at a valuable level for them and it's valuable to me, I think it's a win-win. I don't
Good for
think
everybody.
Is looking for to get over on everybody. I think people will appreciate, that's a great deal. Oh, thank you. Oh, and we really appreciate you valuing that we bring you something that you like. I think there's definitely room for that.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, Brendan. I think the other, we realize from a value perspective, finding new customers is hard. Keeping customers, well, we made it hard, but it shouldn't be hard.
Right.
and if we approach this in the right way, then that's how we grow the business, is by continuing a relationship, not by just continuously having to start new relationsonships. That's
growing from
not the
your
way to work.
existing customers, Mike. Those are the top
who wants to date that much? Like, honestly, okay, like we're all like, listen, we're all old, right? Like, let's just admit it. But if we remember to our 20-year-old selves Who wants to date that much? I don't want to. I do not have the patience for it. Okay. And when I was in marketing, I didn't have the patience for it then either. I do not want to meet a new date every night. That's a very specific job description.
Again, we choose the companies as a customer. You choose the companies who you need, whatever is done, because it seems like it's the one that's going to give you the value you need, and the customer and the company's happy because you chose them. I mean, I remember all the way back in the beginning of my career, the first thing I tried to like make into a maxim was if a customer likes you and continues to like you, they'll continue to do business with you. If they don't, they won't. And that was it. And that still holds. Right.
They'll walk in their wallet. It's pretty easy.
That's it. Exactly.
Easy
and
enough,
the
right?
business to make money and to do their job needs that. Right. So
but can I share something that was super cool from like the keynote stage here at re:Invent?
Absolutely not.
Please.
Only if it's valuable.
Come on. Okay.
All right.
This will be the moment that I take away from this conference, and I hope becomes my, like, I want this to be my mindset in 2025. Matt Garman, CEO AWS, stood on stage, and there was this huge slide, and he said he refused to accept the tyranny of or. That in their
Tyranny
business,
of what?
or O-R,
Or.
that he refused to accept the tyranny of or. And I sat back and I was like, hot damn, if that isn't what we've been doing in CRM, CX, marketing, sales, service, contact center, all these places that we all live and breathe every day, we consistently think of the or. Am I going to look at my business goals, or am I going to look at my customers' goals? Am I going to look at the data I can use today, or do I wait for the data to be perfect? Do I accept that AI is going to do something for me, or do I hold on to my old norms? Like, there's all these ors. And when he said it, it was funny because he said it again in the analyst room. He's like, I do not like or. I refuse to accept the tyranny of or. And I'm like,
I like
sorry,
that.
Matt.
I will
Matt
admit,
Garman.
Liz, that is interesting.
Stealing Matt Garman's slide. Gotta go, just like the meme with the monkey running off with a hubcap. Stealing it, buddy.
Just as long as there are no varmints involved, Liz, peel away. All right, let's get to this, because first of all, Pete, we need to push the value envelope.
Yeah.
Not it's push, because we're pushing the envelope here.
Remember, an envelope weighs 1 ounce.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, I want to give a shout out to our buddy, the Brohammer, John Reed, who's out there.
John Reed.
On.
All right. So he said, yes, Brandon, in my opinion, the most frustrating loss in the AI Hype Festival is the beauty of a mutual opt-in value exchange. Yes. And the customer relationship can escalate in the most beautiful ways based on that value exchange. That's the roots of how all the next gen stuff can be built.
Did ChatGPT write that?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think John would ever let that happen.
No.
I don't know what we need to rename Rebecca, but Rebecca might just be, I don't know, like the new Bex Hammer. I don't know what we need to call her, but she needs a new for that one.
The Bex Hammer?
The Edge.
I actually kind of like
the Edge.
The Bex Hammer.
The Bex Hammer. What is does Patrick like that, Rebecca? Would No, I don't know.
That doesn't work. That's just
Actually, I want to go back to something that someone just said on the or statement. It is a method. And I was thinking about my data file, right? When I do this or that, I'm bringing it together, right? In my mathematical statement, I'm saying you can be this or that, and it brings it together. That's not what he meant on stage, though. If I look at it from a mathematical question and I'm creating a data stream, if I use the and function, they have to do both.
Which was his point, right? Which was his point.
You guys are way too nerdy.
He wanted to open up. He wanted to open up to the and.
I'm an expert in Excel thanks to that.
Here's my favorite moment is that the other German in my life, not just Thomas, but the other German in my life, also said the same thing, like literally brought up the mathematical definition of or to me.
Sorry, but I was just thinking about my or statements in my SPSS file.
Talking about it's Holger, right? Okay, got to make sure. By the way, Brohammer says no freaking way to the Bex Hammer. By the way,
okay.
No, he also might be saying
I think he's being a little.
AI would write anything.
I think he's being a little. Oh, that's, okay. All right, that makes sense.
Oh,
I like the Bex Hammer.
Nah, unless you guys were related, that wouldn't work. The Beck Hammer and the Bro Hammer.
Mutual opt-in value exchange. Yeah, that's exactly it. That's what we all should be shooting for, right? I mean, isn't that what these businesses really be shooting for? Making money while
Ben's coming in with a
making
hashtag.
That's the fundamental
logic.
value
Yeah,
of business.
So here's
It's an
my
exchange.
so let me
It's
ask
a
you this.
value exchange.
I'm going to go way back in history now to an example that was very public at the time.
I give you these 10 commit. Oh, wait a minute.
No,
That
not
far back?
quite that far back in history.
Okay.
Not that venerable yet. So this was back, if you remember, there was a period, I think it was T-Mobile or AT&T, but one of them was taking a look at all their accounts and looking at how cost effective their customers were. Right. And, a lot of the telcos have always done that. Right. They look at
They
how
fired
efficient.
some of their
Right.
customers.
Well,
That
they
was the
fired
big thing.
800 customers, all who were military serving in Iraq, which is why they were not efficient.
Oh,
Because there was
wow.
very little connectivity available. Right. And it became a big public oops, too.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember
Now,
Yeah, I remember.
Now, that said, now they had no context to look at anything, and they didn't bother to do it. Now it's almost automatic that those things are available to you to see. Okay, so this is probably 13 years later, maybe something like that. Okay, so we're taking it now. Now we're saying, okay, well, given systems and given AI and given other things, we can, given real-time data flows and things like that, we can now provide context, and that probably wouldn't happen again.
Yeah.
Although, but the interesting question there is, we were talking about that beauty of the mutual value exchange, but when it boiled down to it, I'm not 100% certain at that point that T-Mobile wouldn't have cut 200 or 300 of those people anyway, right? Just
Maybe.
because when it boils down to us or the customer, it's us, right? So I'm not saying everybody's, and I'm not trying to be cynical about businesses. Some are very well intentioned and do well, and they may make mistakes, but they fix them. But are we going to see a trend that, let's say, says, okay, mutual value exchange, that's kind of the way we should start seeing things a lot. Are we going to see that trend escalate? Are we going to see it stay around the same? Or are we going to see it regress?
I think we're already seeing it escalate. So this morning I was reading an article that has to do with what we hate is airlines, right? Believe it or not. And one of the things was the growth of the disappearing or the separation of classes, right? So it used to be that if you were in business class or above, most of the time it was a value that you were given. You weren't really paying for it, right? But now over COVID and some other things, they've become, and data, they've become much smarter at understanding that value exchange. And they're moving a lot of those low-end customers up the value exchange to increase revenue and purchase pricing. The airlines are starting to do this. So now the problem with that is there's less available seats for me to just get handed to it because I'm no longer able to use my upgrades because other people are buying it based on that value exchange because they understand what it is and what it's for. And they're also do not like getting nickel and dimed, which on the other end, right? They've had a piece of it. I think this is all about economics and the value exchange and having experiences that we value. We value sitting forward in the front of the plane, so we're willing to pay for that. We value overhead, so we're willing to pay for that, right? The airlines were early on the loyalty schemers. They're also been early on this dynamic pricing scenario, right?
Yeah.
So I do think we're going to start learning from some of these very data-rich companies that are able to mine it and create these curated experiences that people are willing to pay for and value. And I think we're already there.
I think
Paul, I want to go back.
Oh, sorry, Michael. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Paul, I wanted to go back to something you said, just because I think is a great example when you think about that whole T-Mobile debacle thing. It's a great example of we have the data, but we didn't.
I thought it was Sprint.
Or maybe it was Sprint. Yeah, we have the data, but we didn't put the whole picture together, right? Because they didn't use the full data picture. They only used the data picture that was related to the dollars, and they didn't look at everything. And that's a great example of not building out even what, maybe they couldn't have gotten to that data. I don't know what the data infrastructure looked like, but you know what I mean? It's like now we have the capability and we have the understanding that we need to have that full picture before you can make those kinds of decisions.
By the way,
think that's
I
an
was
important-
I was laughing at what Ben said about airlines not being.
Yeah.
way-
And also the other thing, Paul, I was going to say, when you said go back and think about it, I immediately thought of United Breaks Guitars.
Yo,
Couldn't help it.
There you go.
Oh,
Yeah,
God, yeah.
and someone pointed out
There's that.
airlines aren't really early with anything, and that's a really
That was
good
Ben.
point. They're
So,
not
by the way,
usually
for those
early.
who don't know Ben Becker, he actually is an airline consultant and a CRM expert and ran Continental Airlines CRM strategy system, the whole whack. Ben knows what he's talking about.
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
gonna
I
piggyback-
meant on the dynamic pricing, sorry, and the loyalty programs. I didn't mean on the execution of the true value. but
I
yes.
think he got it.
Isn't it interesting though when we think about, if I think about airlines' ability to use data and understand their customers, you know, in the early 90s, American figured out exactly how long they could delay a flight before they pissed customers off. And they used that data to plan a
Yes,
lot
they do.
of
I fly them regularly.
right? Right? So we've got an entire industry that's been using data in really, really clever ways for a long time, just not necessarily with best interest of the customer at heart.
Yeah.
By the
But
way, this
also,
would be a good.
Let's also. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Brad.
I was just gonna, this would be a good part to plug that John Bruno from.
I was just
Pros
going
will
to
be
say,
on-
I was going to say
pricing,
Pros is on later, so you got to
He's
go
on
there.
tomorrow.
But-
Tomorrow.
Come back
But I
tomorrow
do-
for that
but I-
discussion. Okay.
I know, but I do think that is an important one to come back to, right? So I remember speaking to a group of airline execs, and I was talking to the reason why they wanted to talk to me was like, help us understand marketing, help us understand the customer. That was the premise of it. The very first executive literally looks at me and says, can you explain to me where people get off complaining about getting charged $75 for a bag? Try going to FedEx and shipping a bag same day for $75. And the thing that blew my mind in that conversation, if we bring it back again to the humanization part, was, dude, are you serious? Like, really? You like, this is what you want to understand about the customer? Is
Gross
where they get the
conceptual
nerve,
error.
right? Like, where do you get the nerve to think your bag flies with you, right? It was one of those kind of mind-blowing moments. But at the end of the day, I think we also have to remember that value isn't a static thing. Right. And so I think that what a lot of people try to do with data is try to boil things down, especially when it comes to CRM, is if I'm thinking about a traditional version of CRM, I want it to go into a field. I want to rename that field value, and I want to assign something that fits neatly within that between 10 drop downs that I can put in it. But that's not what it is for a customer, because a value in every engagement and a value in every experience is going to change. But I will tell you, in every consumer survey I've ever done where I've actually asked a consumer to define, like, what are your top 3 attributes of what you think is valuable, it's something that saves me time, something that saves me money. That's usually the first one, right? So it's something that saves me money, something that saves me time, and something that added to my day. It's never something that made me laugh. It's never something that made, like, it's never those things, but it's always me. Right? It's always something that it comes back and it brings it back and it personalizes it in a very, very real way. How we answer that, sadly, is by being able to say, hi, Brent, in an email. And we're like, yeah, personalization. Woo! Like, I put Brent and a picture
insert
of
name
Atlanta
here. Is that what
on
you're
his
well, that was
Hi,
my
insert
team.
name
value
here.
mile. Yeah,
Right.
like
But you know,
personalization.
there's
So
the thing that you said I think is interesting too, that leads to this idea of who defines the value, right? Remember, the customer defines the value. They're defining what's valuable to them, not you. And that's the
But it's also
danger
okay
of
to
getting
have
into
a
this and
value.
thinking I know better than them, I'm going to define it.
Right. But it's also okay, to our point, to the conversation that we were all having earlier, is that we can understand, and now thanks to data and AI, we can begin to discover what that shift in value is in the moment the customer is having that decision. But we also get to have a North Star of what value is for us as the business. Again, we don't have to pick the or. We can actually find that intersection of and we might have to sacrifice something, but that's okay.
There's a reason why it's called a value proposition.
Yeah. Good
Right.
point.
By the way, Michael Frank said the cruise industry is a much rich example of dynamic pricing. Mr. Greenberg, you just got back from a cruise. Is that something that jives with what you are used to, or? What you
Well,
experienced?
I go with the idea. Wow, they're expensive. Right. So,
yeah.
right. So, I mean,
Yeah,
he's
the
right.
dynamics
Though
are only going up.
I weirdly, because of a lot of time I spent with pros and other places, I can't speak to it relative to airlines particularly, but I do know that they use dynamic pricing pretty much nonstop, actually, because they're operating with a lot smaller number of available, rooms, and they need to sell out every single ship. It's
Google
not like
boat
have
move.
anything left over. So, and the benefit levels are fixed, right? So they're assessing all the time against the fact that we have to offer this level of service. We can only go to this point, especially if you're in a suite or something at a higher level. And they want to optimize is the wrong word. They want to maximize the profit from each of those, because they're on some of the suite stuff, they're operating at very small margins at the end of the day, if they come down. So
Did you just say at the end of the day?
yeah, I'm trying to bring Bob's spirit in.
You're channeling Bob Stutz. Huh?
I am. So I don't know for a fact, but I can totally agree with Michael on that. I'm sure it's the case.
I want to throw something out at you guys. Are we going to be still hyper focused on,
as long as the word hyper
AI?
There, yes.
I couldn't being hyper anything. I don't know.
No.
Is AI going to be the continually main thing everybody's talking about in 2025, like it has been for the last several years? Is there going to be something else that actually will get our focus away from AI?
I think it's going to be the execution of it, like Mike said earlier.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to be continued on it and what we're going to do to leverage it to its full extent. Right? We're not there yet. And it's changed, right? So now not only do we have predictive AI, but we've got generative and LLM models that are not the cheapest way of analyzing data today, right?
Are we getting to a point where there may be too much AI fatigue may stop the progress of some of this stuff?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so. And it was interesting. Rebecca and I, we were at a Agentforce event a couple of weeks ago in New York, and one of the customer panels, the customer was talking about all they were looking at with Agentforce, blah blah, this, that, and the other. And somebody asked them, "Well, so you've got all that in production?" And the answer was, "Oh no, we don't have it in production yet. We're just testing. We're running projects." So I think that's the reason it continues is that we're getting to the point now where things are going to start to go into production. They are going to start to be modified and improved. And then underneath that, we're starting to see the evolution of a lot of other pieces that support this, like language models and what does that really mean? And, now we've added behavioral data to the language model. Now it's a behavioral model. It can, you're talking about a totally different level of prediction, and you're talking about small, medium, large models in the right context. And there's all these things that we're trying, and we're going to keep trying. And I think the conversation's not going to go away from that for a while, and maybe not for a long while. I don't know.
But I think you have to separate the thoughts of Brent,
you
what
do.
you asked, right? So Brent, you asked, are we still going to be talking about it? Absolutely. And I 100% agree that we are in this, I'm going to play with it. I'm going to experiment in it. Mm-hmm. There are organizations that are still trying to get AI infused tools past their procurement and security checks. You've got 8 to 10 month cycles of just going through security reviews that people aren't actually able to implement some of these models because they can't get through review. So you have
I wonder how many of the people here. Wonder how many of their employees are actually using generative AI tools that they don't know about.
But here's the problem: they're using the
not
tools,
in a systematic way.
But they're not. Right. But they're not in that the systematized or productized, whatever you want to call it, right? So we've got that problem going on. So we don't really have this being the norm yet. We've got the idea of using AI is the norm. That's great. But we're still in the experimentation phase. Other issue, but hang on just a second. The other issue that we've got though, and to Brent, your question, we're fatigued. That's the problem, right? We're tired of hearing the magic and it's going to solve everything and glitter cannon and oh my God. Or we're also exhausted by it's going to steal your job headlines. I think people in 2025 are want to start using, and that's from the builders all the way through to our employees, because the people who want to use it most are customers.
Yeah,
and what
I
customers
think you're
are?
right.
They're employees. So again, it comes back to that humanization aspect of, if we keep forgetting that people listen. We keep talking about like human in the loop and like humans are the loop. Okay. Like AI is the tool. Humans are the loop.
Yeah.
We want to get working on this stuff. We like to use it in our personal lives. We want to use it in our work lives, but we're tired of hearing the empty promises.
Well, and we've moved to a different place too. Let's be honest. A year ago, we weren't talking about AI that did things for you. We were talking about AI that helped you build content and brainstorm things and generate stuff. But it wasn't actually going out and taking care of things for you. And now we've reached a point where it is actually doing things, and it will start to relieve some of those mundane tasks or structured work, and have humans focus on the unstructured work that's more value. I think that's where you're really going to start to see.
And what got announced this week with the Nova models and with the Nova products. So, Amazon now has the Nova suite of models. They're foundational models that you can actually build on. It's going to come in 4 separate packages. You're going to have lighter weight, cheaper access, easier access directly in Bedrock for whatever you want to build on. It starts to change the game of actual application and experimentation. You experiment with it, you turn it off, you're not getting, you're not paying for it, you're not getting dinged with credits and fungible whatchamacallit. You're getting it done.
By the way, my flight just got delayed 2 hours and 30 minutes.
Stop it.
So that's a good example of experience.
Well, at least you didn't get in your car and get in the highway, and all of a sudden you got.
But I did get the Cheryl Ann, we're sorry your flight was delayed for XYZ text.
Oh, they said
a little
sorry.
empathy in there. That's good.
Well, I am in Canada. We do say sorry.
Sorry.
All right, this has been. Once again, this on top of the other conversation we had has been really great. So let me just ask each of you for your last parting thought on what should we expect from the CRM, CX, customer engagement, whatever you want to go. What do you think we'll actually get next year in 2020? Will we get closer to actually the nirvana that some of us were talking about? Or is it just going to be one of these where we start using this stuff and then the hype doesn't match the reality and people will just get pissed off and say, why are we even doing this?
Who wants to go? Okay, I'm going to start. Anyway, so I do think the hype is already weared off a little bit, right? We are starting to realize that there are data governance issues, there are data issues we need to address, there's learning and exchange models. But I can tell you that what I'm happy about is the early stages of discovery for some of at least the generative AI stuff. This number one thing they were trying to do was improve employee productivity, workforce productivity. That was the number outcome. I liked that response. I thought that was fabulous. Wasn't thrilled with the number 2 response, which was to reduce costs. But the number 3 was usually to go with the CX and customer enhancements, right? So what I'm trying to say is I think that is actually good data and good judgment, right? So it's balancing. It's the or statement that should be an and statement is we need to focus on employee productivities. Realistically, we need to reduce our costs because everything has gotten expensive. And yes, we have to make sure that it's safe to use in our customer experiences today, which we're not totally trusting yet. We don't necessarily know how to execute on that. And that will be a 2025, 2026, 2027 execution path.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, we went with AI,
Rebecca,
we
you want
it to FOMO, fear of messing up, right? And now we're all getting.
Are you sure it was messing up or food?
What do we actually do with this stuff, and does it make sense? Right. And one of the cool things that I'm seeing out there is that it used to be the big tech stuff was really only interesting and accessible for the big companies. That is not true with Gen AI and with ChatGPT and even with Agentforce, to pick
Right.
one of them, right?
Yeah.
You can easily or relatively easily
Yep.
get your hands dirty with this stuff as a small business and really, really get yourself into trouble or do amazing things.
Yeah, well, I mean, and all the data this year has shown that the fastest adoption has been in the small and mid-sized business, and you understand why, right? Because it is in fact a force multiplier for them, and I think I definitely think going into next year, this idea of what can we automate, what can we change in the way we do processes, and I feel like we finally gotten to the point where we're focusing in the right places, and we have tools now that are starting to keep up with those. So we'll see, but I think that companies are going to learn that these are the things that are really beneficial to us because they do, take away activities that we don't really want to focus on but need to be done, and let us focus our resources in the right places for the things that really do add value for us and for the customer. So yeah, I don't think we're early in a cycle, and it's going to be a while, I think.
I tend to look at this from the perspective of, for all these years, we've been really focused on various letters of the CRM promise, right? We've focused on the management for a really long time because we thought that this technology could come in and finally make our salespeople do what we wanted them to do. Damn them. Oh my God, won't let they listen, right? Salesforce automation didn't quite get us to it. And
didn't automate any salespeople.
Yeah, because we couldn't make the salespeople do it. So now we're going to manage the customer. Yeah, we kind of focused on the management side, and then we went through kind of the warm, fuzzy, empathy laden, customer side of this. I'm kind of hoping that 2025 allows us, with all of the AI, with all of the advancements we've been able to have in data, both in the structure and the movement and the cost of that movement and the availability of that data, I hope we can actually go back to the fundamental groundworks of focusing on the relationship, because the relationship isn't just between what our customer is buying from us or that transactional data of they bought on this date and now they're going to have to renew on another date. That's not relationship, right? The relationship is not only between the network that you build across the people who have been involved in that transaction. So it's that interpersonal within your enterprise, but it's also the interpersonal with our customer, right? Who does our customer then influence? How does that lead to loyalty? How does that lead to advocacy? So I kind of hope that with all of the AI and with all of the data and with all of the fact that, cloud's getting cheaper, compute's hopefully getting cheaper too, that we are now in a space where we really get to do amazing things with the relationship rather than focusing on the kind of two bookends of the C and the M.
Nice.
Okay.
Fair.
Wait, we haven't heard from Patrick. What are Patrick's parting thoughts?
Patrick?
Oh,
What is Patrick?
who's Patrick? I forgot about the dog.
Cheryl, who's Patrick? Oh my God, what did you just say? Hurt my heart. Hi, Patrick.
Hi. You said it's got to be more human. I say it's got to be more dog too.
We started the conversation with human, and dogs are right there. They're the best humans of all.
Yet the
No, you know what?
finicky.
You guys are the
I was
best
gonna
humans
say.
of all. You guys
All right.
for
Brent.
joining us today.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Once again, we had a great conversation to start, and you guys just added to that. And we're appreciative. I'm not going to start crying, folks. I'm just going to say thank you.
I was waiting. I thought maybe.
He's throwing a virtual hug at you.
Oh God! And hopefully, maybe we'll see some of you next month in Atlanta.
Waiting to
Maybe.
hear.
It'd be
I know,
nice.
Mike, you're coming. Rebecca, you're coming. I don't know about you guys, Liz and Cheryl yet. But...
Count me in.
All
I just
right.
haven't sent anything back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Actually,
have a great holiday season. We really appreciate it, and keep pushing that envelope. All right.
Thanks. Bye,
Thank
guys.
you.
Bye, guys. All right. I've got one announcement while they're going out. So those of you who are in comments, stick around. Okay. I want Michael Frank, Tony Keskinen, Sam Gupta, and Ben Becker. Ben, I know how to
And
read
Thomas.
too. And no, Thomas is an analyst. He has separate.
Oh, but he had a really good thing.
No,
going
he was
with-
great.
Yeah.
No, he was great. But
Him and Sam were going
I
back
don't
and
need
forth.
I don't need him to send me this email.
Oh, okay.
I need you all four of you, send me an email just so I have your email at paul-greenberg3@the56group.com. If I don't hear from you because you've already logged off, I will contact you on LinkedIn.
Okay, I was going to say, how are you going to?
No, I can do that.
Yes, Sarita, Atlanta is where it's at.
That's
Absolutely.
right. Amen, sister.
All right, so let's set the stage. If I could only talk, well, first of all, before we talk about tomorrow, your impressions, your thoughts on what we just did the last 2 hours.
Well, I mean, my impressions on both groups were not only did they do the things that they do great or to begin with, but the conversations were amazing. I mean, I love those. I'm highly opinionated, but I can listen to these guys all day on both. And it's interesting because, each of them each person goes an individual group, but each group goes its own way too. Let's say this, if it was done as a blind listening, which group were analysts and which group were working with the vendors. I mean, it's just clear. And I'm not saying anything that one's better than the other, but the perspective.
They complement each other. I mean,
tremendous.
Yeah.
And the conversations are great. I mean, there were differences, but they were entirely, which I love, the fact that they were really convivial, and I just love this. It's like my, as much as I love you and me doing these shows all the time, this might still be my favorite one, just because I love it so much.
And it's usually the show that we talk the least in the year, which always makes for a better show.
We had a fair amount to say on this one.
By the way, thank you, Ben, because I meant to say this earlier. Big happy birthday to Marshall Lager. I don't know if he's out there, but if you guys are still there, just leave a comment saying happy birthday to Marshall. Let him know that we're thinking about him on his birthday. Okay. So this was just day one. Guess what?
What?
There's a day two.
All right.
Nah, 1 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Part duo.
Duo.
Okay. I think we tried.
Those.
We tried. Anyway.
I did 4 languages.
Yeah, you certainly did. All right. So tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern, Jason Miller from Creatio. Sugar Clint Orm. I just like that because that was his Twitter handle, Sugar Clint. So he'll always be Sugar Clint. It's not like he was a fighter like Sugar Ray or Sugar, all those guys. But he's Sugar Clint Orm, who is the co-founder and chief strategy officer for Sugar CRM. Tara DeZau. I just like saying her last name. She is representing Pega. She's with MarTech and AdTech. She's their senior director for that kind of stuff. And Captain America, David Singer, will be joining us. He's a VP and go-to-market strategy for Verint. And last but certainly not least, Vijay Sundaram, who is the chief strategy officer for Zoho.
And it's eternally smiling.
He's always got a smile. Him and Ann Chin. I've never seen either of them.
Well, Ann's is actually by necessity from the heavens, because if her smile ends, apocalypse happens.
Necessity from the heavens.
If she stops smiling, apocalypse is actually coming.
Okay, well, we hope that won't happen anytime soon. All right, and we've got a mini panel. It's not a mini anymore.
Not anymore, because we got the third person coming.
So once again, directly following the first panel tomorrow at 1 p.m. at 2 p.m., we are bringing together some executives from companies who are not specifically CRM CX, but are tangential. They are really, and they're moving further and further into impacting that CX and CRM stuff. So John Bruno, who is VP of strategy for Pros.
Yep.
And Johan Reed, who is the chief marketing officer for user testing. And as I said before, the best 2 beards in the industry, hands down. I wish I could get something that looked as good as theirs. I can't, but we will see them tomorrow. In addition to Michelle Couture. I just like this. Makes me sound like I'm saying something French.
Very, very sophisticated.
Yes. Who is Zoom's global product marketing lead for CX. She is joining that panel too. We just got word of that, so I didn't have a chance to put them all together, but they will be together tomorrow at 2 p.m. So join us at 1 p.m. and stay until we are done with that second panel. Anything to add to that?
Nope. See you tomorrow. That's something I could add.
There's one other thing we can add.
And what might that be?
This.
Of course.
See you tomorrow at 1.
Bye.